Hi guys, so just picking up where we left off, we just added this view controller right here and added all the UI elements that we wanted to it. And I just went back and changed the heights of all these text fields to about 37 from the source code. Um, just looks better that way. Feel free to do that on your own time. Anyways, next thing that we want to do is we want to add um, firstly, we want to create a file for this. So let's go ahead and create that. We'll call it add user info view controller. And we'll put that right in there. And change the class of this to add user info view controller. And now let's make sure our referencing outlets are set up. So let's go ahead and connect those. And we can basically just call this male button and female button and birthday text field, and we can call this one choose profile, choose prof pic button, and we can call this birthday label, and we can call this prof pic image view, and then we can add an action over here. So once the sign up button is clicked, then we will call this function sign up user, and we'll put all the code for that in there. Okay, first things first. So let's go back to the sign up view controller that we had, and let's go back and look at the code that we had for that. So we added some code here just to check for errors, but if there is no error, what do we want to do? If there's no error over here, then we want to take the user to this next view controller, and in this view controller we'll want them to customize all this info, add in their info, and then afterwards click sign up. And when we sign the user up there, then we want to include all of the information that the user has entered in this view controller and in this one. So how do we do that? How do we pass information between this view controller and this view controller? Now that's a key point. First thing we want to do is we want to create a segue between these two view controllers. So we'll go to this yellow dot, we'll hold control, and we'll do control drag, and we'll make a show segue. And we need to give that segue an identifier. So let's go ahead and do that. We have the segue selected, and we'll give it an identifier to add user info. And let's copy that. And we'll go into our sign up view controller, and in our sign up view controller, this is when the continue button is pressed. And when the continue button is pressed, if there is no error, so if the display error is equal to this empty string, then we want to perform a segue. We want to go to the add user info view controller. So how do we perform that segue? We do self.perform segue with identifier, and this is the segue that we just gave an identifier to, so we can copy and paste that in to add user info, and the sender will be self. Okay, so this takes us to the next view controller, but so basically what it does is when this continue button is pressed, if all these fields are filled out, then it takes us to this next view controller right here. But how do we make sure that when we're in this view controller, we have all of the data that was entered in here? And the way we do that is that in sign up view controller right here, we add this function called prepare for segue. So this function will be executed anytime there is any segue that is occurring from this view controller. So here's what we want to do. If segue.identifier equals to add user info, then we want to do some things. So if we're performing this, so that's basically checking out of all the segues that you can perform from this view controller, if it's this segue right here, then we want to do some things. And here's what we want to do. We want to pass the data from this view controller to the add user info view controller. And the way we do that is we say let add user info VC equal segue.destination view controller. So the view controller that we are going to, and we want to make sure that we have the right type, and the type is add user info view controller. Then we can basically set a bunch of fields that we've defined in the add user info view controller to these values that we need. But in order to do that, let's define these fields in the add user info view controller. So now that we're here, some of the fields that we want to define are var username, and we need to make sure that we set them to the empty string. So, and we can have var first name, var last name, var password, var confirm password, and var email. So now that we have all of these fields in here, what we can do over here is when we have this segue.destination view controller, so we have this view controller that we're going to right here, then we can say that add user info VC, which is an instantiation of that view controller, dot username, which is the field we've just defined in that view controller, equals username dot text, where username, this username right here, is the username text field that we've defined up here, and it wants us to unwrap it. Cool. So then we can do the same thing for password. So add user info dot password. So that means this password field that we've put right here in the add user info, and we want to set it equal to the password text field that we have over here, and so we do password, which is the text field, dot text to get its text, and it wants us to do this probably too. Cool. So we'll do the same thing for first name. And basically all the fields that we have. Cool. So now when we transition to this next view controller, we should have all of this data. And let's check that just by doing this. Let's take a couple of the fields and let's print them to the console, and we can say var username is print username and we can do print email is, and we'll print the email. And just to make sure we have all these fields defined, let's go to parse as soon as I can get my internet working. And doesn't seem like it really likes me. Well, we'll go to parse once my internet won't start working. Oh, okay. Is it? One sec. Well, we'll wait for Comcast. It doesn't really like its users, so okay. Anyways, so let's give this a run. And how about this? I'll be right back with you. So I'm gonna cut the video right here.